everybody, Jewel back again with another super cool astrology video, and we're talking about moon in the third house today. What that's like when somebody has that going on in their birth chart, a little bit about their characteristics and how they show up in the world. So the moon, is our feelings in astrology. It's very different from the sun, which, the sun is our ego and our expression, what we want to be seen as. And the moon is really what's going on inside. It's our internal self. It's our habits, our yearnings, our cravings. Represents, things of Cancer, the mother, femininity, nurturing, nutrition, intimate things of, originally of the fourth house and of Cancer. Very much descriptive of, what the moon is about. And the moon also is very much about our mind, about our thinking and our, how we process. So the third house is, the house of communications, movement, learning, reading and writing, communication through, computers, letters, phone calls, short transit, so short trips. Our siblings are found in the third house. So, and our courage as well. That's something that we don't always understand in Western astrology, that a lot of our courage and our grit is in the third house here. So when we have the moon coming into the third house of communication, siblings, information, it tends to be emotionally busy. We tend to see somebody that has a lot or requires a lot of emotional stimulation. They can be a little bit dramatic. They're very intellectually curious, looking to be emotionally awakened in like a quick, satisfying way. Because things in the third house happen rapidly. And because Mercury, originally rules this house, and this is the smallest and fastest moving planet in the solar system. He gets around, he's busy. So when we have the mind, the thinking, the feelings coming into the third house, it's going to be busy, it's going to be curious. They're going to have to do some learning about delayed gratification when we have this placement. They don't want to do a lot of waiting at all when we have the moon here. So, information gathering, reading, writing, learning, they have a huge imagination. There is a lot of daydreaming that goes on when we have the moon in the third house. They spend hours in fantasy and daydreaming. Sun in the 12th house is very similar, but not for the same reasons. Moon in the third is, always looking for, that emotional stimulation. Something to look forward to. So when we have it, here, they tend to be, they have to do something. They have to keep themselves busy, and they tend to do that through imagination and fantasizing. A lot of fantasizing with the moon in the third. So they also tend to be emotionally courageous. Now, you have to look at everything, because if the ruler of the moon, or the ruler of the third house is in the 12th, that can really change things. Or if Neptune is here in the third, that can really change things. So it's, you always have to look at aspects. I teach one thing at a time in my videos. And when you get, smart enough, then you could put it all together and you can see a complete picture. But you are never going to see, much from just one thing in astrology. Like the sun sign that's not going to tell you much. You have to look at everything. The house the moon is in. Well, that's going to describe, one facet of the personality. So you have to look at everything. And I teach you one thing at a time in these videos. So that's what I'm always telling people. We're learning to put the building blocks together, and then we can see everything. So you have to see how the moon is ruled, how it's aspected, to see how the emotional courage is really working in the life. But if things are going well, if it's aspected well, it's a good sign. So they're going to the 12th house, then we tend to see more emotional courage with this placement. So these people with moon in the third, they really need to talk about their feelings in order to relieve their anxiety. There tends to be more emotional anxiety with this placement, and they need to communicate in order to relieve that, to get that out. And even if it's just saying a few words, there needs to be some verbalization, when it comes to their emotions and their feelings, or they can really get sick. They have a hard time, and you have to see how the moon is aspected, because they might have a very hard time verbalizing. Typically, they don't with moon in the third. It's more natural. Emotional communication comes naturally, but you have to look at everything. Maybe the moon is in trouble, or you have the moon with Saturn or something, or with a square to Saturn or something like that. So, emotional communicators need to, to be heard, to get that out in order, to get that energy out, in order to, be able to achieve some kind of, emotional balance. Because their feelings and their thoughts are very much tied together with this placement. So, their thoughts can be very chaotic at the same time, that their feelings are. But if they're able to, verbalize that, then they can bring some, balance to their thoughts, and then they can emotionally balance as well. So it's important that they just have a listening ear, or somebody who's even pretending. So when it comes to their opinions, they can be very wishy-washy. Whatever house the moon is in, it really goes up and down, or, the moon, has different phases, it waxes and wanes. That's very much how it acts in the birth chart. So they can adopt other people's opinions and ideas easier than other placements. They try on different views frequently. And eventually, most of them come to a place where they, know for themselves, or have a strong, concrete, value system, or, opinion system. Who's even to say that that's more, desirable than being, open and, available to new information and change it. And they typically are more. And that can show up as having a kind of a wavering value system, which is, generally makes life a little bit more difficult. So although, there's they have this great, ability to be, emotionally, open to new, experiences, thoughts, opinions, ways, they do need to establish, a core, core belief value system for themselves. So they can be very conciliant thinkers. They are able to take, information from all different tiers of society and different, levels of society, and put that into, one, one mind, one thought process, one personality. And so they typically do come to a place where they form their, more individual ideas and opinions, but they always do remain more open than more people throughout their life, and I think that's a good thing. So when it comes to sleep, moon in the third needs less. They typically have a lot of issues with insomnia. The mind is very busy, doesn't want to shut off. So when they go to bed, this is when it turns on. This is when they start thinking. So, they can be laying there for 2-3 hours, imagining, daydreaming, thinking, planning. And, hours go by that they should be resting. And if they wake up during the night, the mind turns on right away. Then we start thinking, keeping ourselves awake. So a lot of, I advise people with moon in the third house, I find that a lot of relief can come through writing, through, communication with the hands before bedtime. Wearing one's mind out through either typing or writing, journaling, blogging, those types of things where we have the mind and the motion tied together. This can really aid them in being able to turn the mind off, once it's time for sleep. So they need to give themselves plenty of time in order to feel finished, with that communication. Sometimes it might take a couple hours of doing this, but better that than laying in bed tossing and turning and feeling guilty because you're not sleeping. That communication coming through the hands, can be really great for quelling the thoughts when it's time to lay down. They can actually go to sleep. So this is my analysis of moon in the third house, and I will be back soon with moon in the fourth house, along with other super cool synastry and composite videos. And you can find me on the internet at truthinAspectAstrology.com and on Facebook at Truth in Aspect Astrology. And my partner, Seth Roback, is also on Facebook, has lots of good videos. You should check him out. And I will be back soon. Bye-bye.